Association's town hall meeting. And this year we're going to do protective services. We've got a well-rounded group of people to make presentations, and just want to thank everybody that's come out. And also, too, I want to thank the directors that have put this all together. They've been working hard, and also too from Greg from Wagner Hills. Thank you for your input. So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have presentations, and then there'll be about a 5 to 10 minute period of time where you can take questions. But if you have a really important question that you need to get out, uh, feel free. But there will be a question period afterwards. And the, the first person I'd like to introduce is Constable Phil Colter. He's a community liaison officer with Yvan Salloomi. So come on up, and you can use this microphone if you want, or you need one.
It's all pretty loud.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah, my name is Constable Phil Colter. I'm the RCMP. I'm coming up on 15 years with the RCMP. So 7 of that was general duty patrol. 2 years of that was homeless outreach team, and then I've been a community liaison officer for 4 years now. So most of my time's been in Alder Grove. Currently, I'm what we call District 5, so that's Walnut Grove, Fort Langley, Walton First Nation. But I've been with Walton First Nation for my entire time with communities. So I'm just going to talk a bit about, security and safety and the community. So, as opposed to social media, who kind of trumps up what's happening in the community, Fort Langley is actually very low on property crime stats. Like, there's really, if you're part of the Blockwatch, Yvan will send out the monthly, well, every bi-monthly stats. Every month. Yeah, every month you get stats, and you'll see that Fort Langley actually has maybe 1 or 2 property crimes a month. So, and that's usually theft from auto or a break and enter to a shed or something like that. So it's, but to even prevent those happening, it's the basics. Keep your car locked, nothing of value in your car. Keep your sheds locked. If you have an outside fridge, keep that locked. Get to know your neighbors and, say, hey, I'm going to be gone for a while, or watch my place, things like that. So, I find that Fort Langley already has that in place, really. Like, most people know their neighbors, and there's a bit of a sense of community with it. So, I just live down the road too, so Fort Langley is my community too. So I've been here for 13 years. So get my haircut here with Glenville's and stuff. So I have a vested interest in this area as well. So, and then I was just going to kind of open up to questions for everybody. Like, I don't have much of a presentation, so it's just kind of everybody kind of knows what you need to do to protect your property and things like that. So I know there's been concerns about a certain individual that was, breaking into garages and things like that and being found. So he currently has conditions not to be within 2 kilometers of Fort Langley. So, but if anybody has any questions about him or anything?
My only question is there a website we can go to occasionally, even just for Walnut Grove as well, just to find out what the statistics are, not the details of each crime?
Yeah, you can go right onto the detachment's website. And then if you get involved with our Blockwatch, Yvan will send out those stats all the time. And our Blockwatch is always looking for more people and other blocks. And then our volunteer programs recently opened up again as well. So we're always looking for volunteers.
Can you go into more about the volunteer program? What it entails?
I could let Yvan talk a bit about it. But yeah, one question here.
There's such thing that they could like that the professional would offer like a property assessment or subtech.
Yeah, so I'm subtech qual. So if you would like that, you could contact the detachment. and request that, and then they'll get in contact with me. So, and I can leave a few cards around here as well, and you can always get in contact with me, and I can help with that. So, I try to patrol here every day if I can. Like when the weather gets better, I'll be on foot. We used to do lots of patrols here, but you'll see my vehicle going through as much as I can. But I just do day shifts, so unfortunately, nighttime, like there's not many problems up here, so members go to where the problems are, right? So, but you occasionally get some that they take it on personally, and will come through here at night too. So, but and then I'm also for the area, I'm also part of all the community events. So May Day, I'll be here, Cranberry Fest, Jazz Fest. It's great too. We also do fraud presentations. So if there's anybody in the seniors group or any group that wants a fraud presentation, you can do that for you as well.
Can I just sort of elaborate on your question, because we're on Facebook Live and they couldn't hear it. So and then you mentioned you were had a qualification.
Yeah, septic qualified. So basically, it's looking at a property or a building from a police point of view. So we come in and say like you should put lights up here, you should cut down this edge, things like that. So it basically want to crime through your property, but it helps prevent criminal activities.
And how did they get a hold of you for that?
So yeah, you can contact the detachment and ask for community policing, and then they'll give you my info, and then I'll contact you, and we can set something up. So.
Okay. Pamela, you got a question?
Yeah, like
Okay. What's that?
Now, I did a bunch.
Sir, Constable, can I get you to repeat their question, because it's not coming up on our live feed. Either that or come on up to the mic when you speak. Yeah.
The question was about fraud presentations. So Yvonne and myself go to like we did one at the what was it called? Chartwell Green.
Yeah.
So we set it up with their strata, and everything came out, and then gave a presentation on what's current with frauds, what to look for, and then just open it up for questions from there. But yeah, I've done it for different seniors groups. I've done it for QP. I've done it for quite a few different groups. And if you want something like that, you can always again call the detachment and request it, and then or talk to Blockwatch, and we can set it all up.
Be careful, there's a bee on the microphone.
Go ahead.
Or a wasp, actually.
Okay. Not getting too close to this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you, Twinkle.
Thank you. So I have a question. I know that Fort Langley is an island, but what are the trends that Fort Langley might be seeing coming down in a few years that are already perhaps out in the rest of the township of Langley?
So the fort's kind of unique with that. Like, there's no real like. If we have a homeless person around here, they usually have some sort of attachment to the fort. Like they have a relative that's been here before, like that. It's not really transient because it's off the beaten path. For crime, it's you could be targeted like all the other communities where they'll send almost like a reconnaissance through. They'll send guys through at night and check things out, and if they decide that anything's worth stealing, or if they see opportunity, then they'll show up another day or another evening and steal, and then then they'll go on to a different community. They'll hit Maple Ridge. So that's what Langley, for property crime, that's what Langley usually has. Is it's sporadic, and it's a quick hit and run type thing. So and then with like Langley's got our biggest problem is property, and it is sporadic. with Fort Langley, I can't foresee what future holds for it, but like our problems are basically in the summertime we get kids partying down by the canoe club, kayak club, underneath the bridge, jumping off the bridge. That's really our only issues around here. So. Anything else? Any questions at the end?
Yeah. I just want to throw in then your phone number is 604-532-3200 to get a hold of you.
I'll leave some cards at the end there too. I'll put some of my cards up in community policing, and I'll hang around for a bit afterwards if you want to just talk to me directly.
Yeah, for you to come over. What did you call that again? When you come and take a look at someone's house?
Septic. So
Septic. Okay.
it's another acronym term. Crime prevention. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So Yvonne from Blockwatch is here, and he's going to tell us what's happening in Fort Langley with Blockwatch.
Is there a mic or?
Yeah, it might be a bit better. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming out. So Blockwatch, it is a bit of an old school program, but it's still going strong in Langley. In all of Langley, we have about 150 Blockwatch groups right now. And I think in the forts, we have about 8. And then if you spread out to Walnut Grove, it goes up like 25, 30, depending on how far the radius goes. So it is well represented in Langley. So before I've been doing this job in Langley for about a year now. And before this, I was doing the same job in Surrey. And I must say that Langley has a much better community feel. So I think, well, yeah. And there's some nice parts of Surrey too. But also, Langley definitely has a more community feel, and I think it really shows with how active the Blockwatch groups are. Um, to just summarize Blockwatch a little bit, it's neighbors looking out for neighbors. Um, it's just being a good neighbor is essentially what it is. So a Blockwatch group needs a captain, just someone to lead the group. That is really the hardest part in starting a Blockwatch is having someone step up. So I say it's about 4 to 6 hours of work a year for a Blockwatch captain. To be a participant in Blockwatch, it's literally zero work. It's just receiving emails. To be a Blockwatch captain, the requirements are you have to pass a background check. Usually it costs $80, but for Blockwatch captains, it's free, of course. And then you just have to do a 1 to 2 hour training session with me where I just go over basic crime prevention principles, sort of what Constable Colter was talking about, and just things you can tell your neighbors if any issues are happening. And after that, I send out emails. I send out crime stats every month. So you like to see a nice property crime map that goes straight to your email inbox. I send out crime tips, bulletins, anything else that I find that might be interesting in terms of crime prevention. So that's pretty much it. In terms of Blockwatch, does anybody have any questions regarding Blockwatch? Are there any Blockwatch captains here by any chance? Used to be? Well, what happened?
We.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough. Okay.
Community policing
Mhm.
Through Victoria Drive. We actually did foot patrol, so.
Yep.
And so it's basically the same type of thing where you had your police checks. We did our patrols, some on foot, some on bikes, and we used to do the patrols every week. Same because of the area around Kingsway and Fraser.
Mhm.
A lot of it was taking down license plates. We would be given a list by our community police officer of premises to watch for cars that were parked.
Can I ask you to go to the light? So just so that you're describing it very well.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
So
Um,
do that again.
do it again. Do it again. So basically it was the same thing. Neighbors getting together, deciding that they wanted to actually participate And the community policing were very receptive to having us do that. And there used to be sometimes 20 of us out in an evening, and you would go in groups. We would have certain areas that they would want us to patrol and watch. As a captain, I had to do a report every evening when I finished the patrol. It was emailed to the community policing on Victoria Drive. And we used to get a lovely luncheon once a year and awards for the community policing. But it did make a difference because it was a presence. And we used to have jackets that said what we were. And again, strict rules with regards to no engagement, respect, etc. And yeah, and the street people got to know us, and you got to know the different um, uh, areas that or phone numbers for needle pickup, etc. And it was just being present. And they did see a real reduction over a period of time. Again, because if you're always present, and we used to have the patrols almost every evening, and that included weekends. Anyone who had an interest in participating in any type of crime or prostitution, they just moved down because they didn't like us being there. We interfered with their transaction, just having us watching them. And again, we wouldn't engage whatsoever. We were right. And you could be stripped of your jacket if there was any issues with regards to you being anything but respectful. So yeah, and it was well supported in Vancouver.
Yeah,
Do you want to talk about the volunteer?
yeah, so that's like a perfect segue into our volunteer program. So thank you. That's like scripted. Yeah, so our volunteer program is now back up and running since, yeah, it's been about a year now since it was shut down due to COVID. So our volunteers, so they do foot patrols, exactly what you were describing right there. Um, they're not out right now. They were out an hour ago. Right now they're doing patrols actually in a vehicle. So we give them hotspots where to go based on people reporting crime, which is another reason why reporting crime is so important, because if you don't report it, then we don't know that it happens. We can't. Everything we do is stats based, so we're not just sending people out randomly to do patrols. Like we are sending whether it's our volunteers or our members out to do patrols based on where the crime hotspots are. So that's why it's really important just to report all that, whether suspicious activity or even if something small, someone broke into your car, even nothing was stolen. Like we need to know all these things just so we know where to send our resources. Anyway, so they do foot patrols, they do patrols in vehicles. We have a speed watch team. I don't know if you've ever seen our speed watch volunteers with the speed watch board out with school zones, park zones, etc. So those deployments are also based on our crime stats. So if you call traffic complaints in, that is where we're sending our volunteers. So everything is based off of stats. And then we also have our volunteers at community events. So like the events Constable Colter was describing in Fort Langley, we're in all those events in all over Langley, whether it's Canada Day, Rip Fest, the Aldergrove Cruise In, et cetera, et cetera. We usually have a tent and table. Our volunteers engage with the public, ask questions, give stickers to kids. It's really fun. So if you are looking to give back in another way, our volunteer applications are open right now for both the volunteers and the Blockwatch, two completely separate programs, by the way. The best way to get information on it is just to Google Langley RCMP volunteer programs, and it's all on one page. For our volunteer program, we do ask for an 8-hour commitment per month. We have volunteers that are 19 years old, some that are, I don't know, 70 in their 70s, all walks of life. Yeah, and everyone likes doing something different. You can do whatever you want to do, whichever program you want to do. You don't have to do whatever you don't want to do. You get a training session, 4 to 6 hours, depending on how many questions we get. And that's it. It's really fun. You get to meet a lot of different people, and if it's a great way to give back to your community if you're looking for something else. So if you are interested, I would just Google Langley RCMP volunteer program. It's the best way to do it. And When you ask for an application, it's going into my email inbox as well. Same thing with Blockwatch. It's going straight to my email inbox. So I'll get to connect with you. Um, yes. I can repeat it if you want. Yeah.
They had this all in schools and they were taught, you see a Blockwatch sign, it's a safe place to go. Is that aspect of Blockwatch still around?
Yes. Yeah, yes and no. So we had, yeah, back in the day, it was a safe place. Is that what it was? Yeah, yeah. So it used to be on Windows and be like a safe place for kids. And yeah, and that has been shut down. It was before my time, so I don't want to speculate on why exactly. But yeah, it's not currently a program that's up and running. But one aspect of Blockwatch is getting to know your neighbors. So whether that's the adults, the kids, just knowing for the kids having a safe place to go to in case they need to go to is a really good connection to make. Yes,
I just wondered, you said there is Blockwatch in Fort Langley,
yes.
and it's just different little pockets.
Yeah.
Like, how could I find out if I have one in my street?
If you contact me, are you guys gonna post our information maybe
Yeah.
at the end? Okay.
Okay.
So just wait. Yeah, just watch out for my contacts, and I'll let you know if there's someone close to you, and then I can connect you to the captain, or if not, maybe you want to start a group. Any other questions regarding Blockwatch, the volunteer program, or anything else?
Clarifying.
Yeah.
Blockwatch is different than the patrol program?
Yes. So Blockwatch is more passive, I would say. We don't expect you to go out and do patrols or anything like that. It's more of just an extra set of eyes and ears for the RCMP. But for the volunteer program, then no, we're sending you out to do patrols specifically. It's all very safe too. You're never do anything by yourself. You might have seen our volunteers doing foot patrols. They were high vis vests. In the summers, they'll be out with our community liaison officers as well, walking around, maybe even on bikes. So yeah, good question. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we'll be doing it in our mail out. We'll do a summary brief and we'll include contact information so that people that are interested in following up and being volunteers or block watch that they have the opportunity. Because I don't think that we really you give it out enough and that we need to help support you and get that information out. And also too, I think it's really, really important that people report. I think there's more, or what I'm seeing is more people are posting on social media and that they feel that that's reporting, whereas they need to contact RCMP to let them know so that the stats are there and then you can respond appropriately. So next we have our fire department and Captain Krista Barton, and she's going to come up and talk about fire safety and also a little bit about wildfire.
All right, so thank you for having me tonight. My name, as mentioned, is Krista Barton. I'm a captain with the Townhall Langley Fire Department. I have been with the department for just over 16 years now. I started my career in fire prevention, and then I moved, about a year later, I moved into public education where I taught for over 12 years. And then we went through a little bit of a merger around 2021. And then I ended up in the position of captain in last June of 2020, or sorry, I should say June of 2022 is where I ended up in my current position. And in this position, I am one of 3 captains and I manage all of our inspections, investigations, and public education. So tonight I just want to talk about a little bit about some wild fires and stuff like that. I know that has been, I'm gonna use the pun hot topic. It is one of those things that we've definitely seen an increase. We've had drier weather. We've had more communities be affected by wildland fires. Our department did do a wildland assessment in 2023. Basically, the analysis showed that 95% of the township was classified as low or very low for risk overall. We do have some small areas that do have a higher risk. That's in our parklands, but we are working together to mitigate those kind of risks. Just a little background, we've also applied for another grant this year to do another assessment, as well as providing some training and equipment for our firefighters for wildland fire specifically, and then as well as to look at doing some public education as well as home assessments would be part of that grant. Currently, our department has, we've done a bit of a campaign on FireSmart. So with the materials coming from FireSmart BC, we have been running a bus ad. You may see them around the township. We have approximately 3 that are out right now. Just talking a little bit for wildland fire, being prepared. We also run with that social media campaigns. We've done some with our website. There's tips right on our website as well. So that's tol.ca/fire, and then under fire safety. All of our initiatives, you'll see some different campaign and tips for that. We also launched last year at our open houses. We had all of our fire prevention staff man booths at the open houses. So every June we do an open house, and fire prevention specifically was there with some handouts and materials all on wildland fire, just because there's such talk about it these days. So just some tips I'd like to share just for your properties and things like that. Really, we want to make sure we're choosing non-combustible materials if we can. When you're doing construction and renovation, we're keeping our gutters, those things clear. It's amazing just how much they build up with the type of trees and things that we have in the area. Clearing vegetation. So getting rid of, if you have the dead branches, you have leaves, those kind of things piling up, making sure we're getting rid of them. Avoid planting, woody shrubs and things like that are definitely can be prone to wildfires and things. Removing big piles. Also looking at providing what should I say here? Non-combustible surfaces for like your sheds and stuff like that, putting them on concrete, if you're parking a trailer or anything like that on property, putting those on a non-combustible surface. Also just clearing some of your branch, just not having the low-hanging branches, and then just regularly, our biggest thing is regularly cleaning up properties. So removing of branches, dry grass, things like that. We also recommend that when you're in our parks and trails, that we're not smoking on parks and trail paths. If you do see smoke or any kind of, you think of fire, we do, of course, always say call 911. We do get a lot of questions about, especially during a season like this, where we're right into our burning season. So we do get lots of people that say, well, I'm not going to, 911, that seems like a waste of resources. It's not. We don't know. Even if you're driving by or walking by, unless you have a complete visual, we don't know if that's a house that's on fire, a pile of wood that's on fire, what's happening. So it's always best to call 911. Any sort of questions so far on that side of things?
Is it common for people to notify you of like fires, like burning
Yeah, people do call in for it because what they do is they see a lot of smoke in the area. They'll see, pume smoke, or they'll drive by and they'll see big flames or something like that. So we do get calls. We do attend burning complaints, and we do attend just calls just to generally check to see if, especially in this season when it's burning season, that they're burning within the regulations. So they're allowed to be burning. B, they have a permit, and they are following all of the requirements. But we do follow up on any concerns that come in for those kind of things. Any others there? Nope. I always like to just mention a few things while I'm here as well, just general fire safety. How often do you think we need to change our smoke alarms? 10 years, yeah, every 10 years. So that's regardless of if they're battery or if they're wired in. A lot of people think if they're wired in, they're hardwired to the house, they don't need to be changed. They do need to be changed every 10 years. And basically, my best comparison is to car filters and everything. Like we change our car filters, we change our air filters. They are the same thing. They're just sitting up on the ceiling. They are just a nose that's smelling all the time. They need to have their filters and everything changed as well. So the whole units need to be removed. Does everybody have a portable extinguisher in their homes? Awesome. So it's really an ideal thing to have. We always recommend at least a 5-pound extinguisher. That should be your main extinguisher. Every 6 months, go over to it, find it. It might be under the cupboard, I know. We tend to store them away. They spend their whole lives standing up. So we always recommend you turn them over, hit them on the bottom with a rubber mallet, or you can just use your hand, whatever's easiest, and then just make sure that the powder is actually flowing. Because they spend there so much time standing up, the powder can actually cake to the bottom. So if you were to go to use it, whether that is on, a small contained fire, if you see something while you're driving, have one when you're camping. They're ideal for those kind of situations in your vehicle. Just making sure that they're charged and ready to go. So looking at the gauge. So if they're in the yellow needles in the green, that's showing us that there is pressure in that item. Home escape plans. Anybody thought about it? Good. How many of you actually have a home escape plan? Not too bad, not too bad. How many of you thought about, I'm going to put it out there today, how many of you thought about the exits coming into this building today? Did anybody give any thought to where they would go? That way? Out the way you came? Yeah. So in this room, we actually have we do have quite a few ways that we could go. We have our side doors. We have an exit to the back there. Most people, regardless of where you go, restaurant, into a school, into a workplace, you're going to likely go the way you came in. It's just default. We could have other exits, but by default, we'll go the way we came. So just keep an eye on where your exits are when you're out and about. Keep an eye out on an airplane. Personally, I can't go on an airplane anymore without counting exit rows and looking at all times of where they are. Where are my exits? It's ingrained. Same when I go into a restaurant and things like that. I'm always looking for where my exit points are. Any questions on, or anything that sparked interest on any of those things? Yeah.
So many questions.
I know I used another pun there.
I have a sprinkler system in my house.
Okay.
It's pushing 20 years. Is that something that ever has to be maintained, or?
A sprinkler system? Yep, they should be maintained. So there are instructions that you do have to follow for what is required, and they do require a servicing for them. Yeah, it's always a good thing to have them serviced and checked. Yeah. Any other questions out there? Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And if you have any questions, then just I'm going to be here till the end as well. So if you think of anything, please feel free to approach me. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, next, we're going to move from protective services to support services. And the first person we have tonight is Gregg Davenport from Wagner Hills. And he's going to talk about what his organization does.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. So, yeah, I'm actually going to talk about Wagner Hills briefly about the 211 shelter line, and then share the time with Christina Schneider from Gateway of Hope. So Wagner Hills, the reason why I'm here is because over the last year especially, there were a couple of times where people in Fort Langley either pulled me aside or called me on the phone because my kids have gone to Fort Langley Elementary, and so people in the town know me from the staff at Wagner Hills often, especially among the dads in the town. And they would ask me if they could bring someone immediately to Wagner Hills who was homeless in the fort or who was getting into trouble in the fort. And so I thought it would be helpful to clarify about Wagner Hills, what we do, what we're able to do, and what we're not able to do. Um, of course, our website has all kinds of deeper information you could glean if you wanted to go there. It is just simply wagnerhills.com. Well, you can go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. Um, so uh, what we do have is addiction recovery for men. My apologies for how that ended up stretching out on the screen. Addiction recovery for men. We have had a women's campus since 2008, but sadly this month is our last month for our women's campus. It is closing. So the men's campus that's in the Glen Valley, that has been there since 1981, still serving. It's an in-residence program, and it's a one-year program in a Christian community. That involves it has 12-step routes, so it involves a lot of classes, counseling, and just simply community life. So when people come to Wagner Hills, they get involved in working around the farm. Everybody has a work assignment, and of course, by living in residence, there's just the taking care of a household together, and it's a community living experience. We do have chapels at 11 a.m. that are part of that, and those are open to visitors if anybody ever wanted to come out to a chapel time, 11 a.m. on Fridays. Sorry, Fridays. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, some of the restrictions about Wagner Hills that are good to know: that a person has to be detoxed. It's a non-smoking program. Sometimes when we get prospective applicants calling, that's the end of the phone call right there. It's it is a person does have to use the application process. We can't have somebody just dropped off at Wagner Hills at the spur of the moment. And if there is a history of high violence, and my slide got cut off, but also due to the equipping and training that our staff have and insurance requirements, if a person has any history with sex crimes, we unfortunately can't accept them at Wagner Hills. It's not that we don't care about those individuals and want to see them helped as well. We are not equipped for that at Wagner Hills. So those are other restrictions to know about. When we do get calls, you can go to the 211 side, thanks. When we do get calls about immediate needs for shelter, oftentimes where we turn or we will refer people to is the shelter line. And I won't read you the slide. You can read the slide, or you could go to their website. They did provide me with these two slides. You can go ahead to the next slide. You can see from that they have people somebody can talk to if they just need a support person immediately on the phone, but also they can access live information about beds that are available all around the Lower Mainland. And so with that, I would like to introduce Christina Schneider from Gateway of Hope.
Great, cool. Tall.
Sorry.
That's okay. Can you guys hear me? I'm Christina Schneider. I work at the Gateway of Hope. So I oversee all of the shelter programs and transitional housing programs. I also live in the fort. I've lived here since about 2014 and love it. It is my home. Paddled board in the river, running the trails. Probably see me around town. Yeah. So I just wanted to go over the services Gateway of Hope offers. Currently, it is Langley's only shelter, but that doesn't mean there isn't a lot of other nonprofits in the area that also serve the homeless demographic. And generally speaking, though, it is easy for people to reach us, and then we can connect people with those different outreach services that exist. Our overview, basically, we opened in 2010. We have a 32-bed emergency shelter, a 30-bed relief shelter, 25 beds of transitional housing, and a 15-bed emergency weather response program, which this year was actually 20 beds. We also have family services. So for those experiencing difficulties with food insecurity, if people need extra help with thrift store vouchers, clothing, if there's a fire, something like that, then we're able to help families that way. We have tax clinics, kids camp, medical services, 6-week skillet programs for often helping teach people in the community how to cook nutritionally on a skillet. And then at the end of that 8 weeks or 6 weeks, people can actually take that skillet home as well. And at the end of the day, they have a whole recipe book. They've made a lot of different foods, and they've built a bit of a community as well. We also have community meals. So every single day, 7 days a week, from 12:30 to 1:30, we have community meals and anyone can attend those. Seniors, families, any individual needing an extra meal can come for a hot meal 7 days a week. And we also have an emergency disaster services program. So that is more for if there is like a huge apartment fire or something, then we have the emergency disaster program that will go there and then help make sure the first responders have food and drinks available for them. Next slide. So just go over each program only because often when people ask us or the same like Gregg experiences, people will sometimes just drop folks off or ask, hey, how can we help? What can we do? Being a resident of Fort Langley as well, I often, if people know where I work, then they'll often come up to me too and so needs help. What can I do? Can you take them? This just kind of gives an overview of what each program actually does. Our primary program it's 32 beds. We have 22 male beds and 10 female beds. It runs 24/7. If you're in that program, then you can stay all day and all night. You have your own bed. You can stay in your room all day, all of those pieces. We offer harm reduction supplies and take-home naloxone kits. However, use on the property is not permitted. So we will take anyone who is under the influence, who uses substances, who misuses substances, any of those things, but we don't actually allow use on site. We also have a transitional housing program, which is an abstinence focus program, and we have family services. So we're just not able to accommodate everything at our site. Shelter folks have 3 meals a day and snacks. We do daily laundry. We have storage for up to 2 bags for them. Belongings are disposed of after 14 days for folks, so we can't hold things for longer than that. We are a 90-day stay program for the emergency shelter. If folks are working with other outreach agencies, any other agencies with us moving forward, then we offer extensions, of course. So I know with the housing crisis, we do often have folks that sometimes are with us for almost a year just waiting for housing. Other Langley nonprofits and outreach teams are at Gateway of Hope Daily to connect with our clients. So I know I use a lot of acronyms, like IHEART is the Integrated Homeless Action Response Team. Am I right? I think they are often there as well, just connecting with our clients. The ACT team, forgive me, I forget exactly what they stand for. Do you remember, Daniel? Awesome, thank you. They're often there as well. So there is lots of different resources that we can connect clients to so they get the appropriate response to their needs. We do have a curfew, so it is from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And if people aren't able to stay with us, it is client-led or it's due to the safety for other guests and staff. Next slide. We have a relief shelter. The relief shelter was put up in 2016. It was meant to be temporary. It is still around because of the needs of the community. It is kind of a bare bones shelter program just to help people stay inside at night. And it runs from 7 p.m. to about 9:30 a.m. daily. There's no limit to lengths of stay. Sometimes we are working with individuals who are not ready to go into the emergency shelter. They only feel safe in their relief, and that is all they want to access. So they can stay there as long as they are comfortable. Once they are registered, they can come back every night at 7 o'clock. We also provide 3 meals a day for individuals that are staying in relief and try and connect them with as many outreach services as we can. The curfew is the same across the board. Next slide. Our transitional housing program is 25 beds, 21 male, 4 female. This is an abstinence focused program. We do recognize that relapse are part of recovery. And we'll work with their resident in trying to maintain like that they keep their bed as well. Sometimes that means a different relapse prevention plan. Sometimes that means a return to treatment while we hold their bed. It really depends on each resident. Applicants are required to have 30 days of sobriety and goals of stability. So the biggest thing we often let folks know that are applying to get into our program or families that are trying to get their sons or daughters into the program is that it's not housing. It is a program. The programs that are offered are a mix of mandatory and elective. We offer budgeting, rent smart, trauma therapy. It is based on volunteers that we have. So right now we don't have that. AA meetings, learn to walk or run, club, nutrition, pottery, spiritual care, whatever then we offer that to our residents as well. They're required to meet weekly with their advisors to work on goals and gathering the skills needed to maintain stable housing. And they do have to volunteer for 4 hours a week, whether at Gateway of Hope or somewhere completely different. It really helps people with employment. So they'll have a letter of reference, and also just giving back to the community as well. Like that's part of our community and how we feel good about ourselves too, right? Next slide. And then lastly, we have our extreme weather response. So Gateway of Hope activates and deactivates EWR. Sometimes Langley's had more than one site, which has been great. This year we did 20 beds. The season runs from November 1st to March 31st. I often get questions of saying like, Christine, it's really cold out. How come it's not running? We have to say EWR is a very specific program. It's attached to federal legislation. It can only run when meets a certain criteria. So you'll often see community posters go out and say we've activated. And at that time, then we hold those extra 20 beds and people can come in for a hot meal, shower, laundry, a place to stay safe for the night. And then we do that all over again the next morning if it's still activated. Next slide. These are just our community and family services, which some people don't always know that we do have. We have a nurse practitioner that comes in. She serves both the community and our guests as well. We have community showers for folks from 1:30 to 3:30 on Wednesdays. As I mentioned before, the Skillet program. We have a back to school backpack drive, kids camp, food hamper, housing kits. Again, the tax programs, which is in full swing right now. Spiritual care, vaccination clinics, and all sorts of different seasonal programs. Next slide. I do want to end with just saying thank you for everything that you guys do and also just the community. We can't actually do what we do without everybody's help, whether it's volunteering, just letting people know that we're here and what resources we have, and just general support. If you have any questions about any of the above, please feel free to connect with me. I do have all my cards here, so sometimes if there is an issue, you can just call and we can try and help you get the right resources for whoever you're looking for. Yeah. Questions? Yes.
Can I talk loud or is that? Are there certain patterns through the year of when you hit capacity? Do you hit capacity?
We are usually always at capacity, but the winter months are definitely harder. So thankfully we have those extra beds for EWR, but yes, we are almost always at capacity.
So if we want to help get someone to you and you're at full capacity, what happens?
So generally say we got a call from the community and someone said, hey, this person needs help. Do you have any space? We try very hard to navigate what we can in an emergency situation, and everything is always case by case. So we work really closely with the hospital, with other outreach agencies as well. Say someone is extremely vulnerable, has never been homeless before, has just lost their housing. We're going to do whatever we can to try and get them into the shelter. If we can't, then we will try and make sure that there is another resource somewhere that can take them. Yeah. And there are it is the hard part of there are some cold winter days where we don't have that option, but when we do get certain calls, then we try and make sure that we can help. Yeah.
And the 211 number, like a 911, and then it gets distributed to different organizations?
Yeah, so 211 actually calls us a couple times a day and they say, hey, how many beds do you have available? It also shows up on a database as well for them that they can see if we have any beds available. We'll update them, but other than that, I would also always call because it's only updated twice a day and something could have changed for us.
When you say you're at capacity,
Yeah.
Are there waiting lists?
It depends on the program. Say for transitional housing, because there's an application time, sometimes there would be one. Right now there's not. For our shelters, then usually the turnaround, especially in relief, because it is a more transient program, something usually opens up. Yeah. And it still goes just like we were saying, like in the winter, obviously it's harder to get a spot sometimes. In the summer, then we will have more space. Yeah.
With the event of skydiving, we expect more numbers coming to you.
I'll answer it in the sense like there's usually the homeless point in time counts, one that just came out, and there's usually a steady increase of homelessness just across the region everywhere. So I suspect that will probably continue. That answers your question.
You mentioned iHeart briefly.
Hmm.
Able to kind of just comment briefly on what they do in the community and any other.
I can't speak for another organization, but I do for outreach. There are a variety of ones. Some are Fraser Health, through Fraser Health. iHeart would be one of them. Most of the, or a lot of the outreach ones that have more specific teams, they'll sometimes have nurses. They'll do a lot of like wound care for someone if they need that. They can do referrals for treatment, all of the things that often shelter staff can't do.
And some of them are present on the streets, right?
Yes, they are outreach teams, so they are out on the streets connecting with folks. So say there has been a few times where I've been called, even from like the fort, hey, I think someone is in trouble. Are you able to? I can't myself come out, and we also don't have outreach workers, so I will connect with other managers of other agencies, and they will send somebody out to go and see if any help can be given. Yeah.
With
Thank you.
with community policing, iHeart actually comes out with it sometimes, or different community groups will actually patrol with us, so we can actually introduce the people we think they need help. We'll say, here's a nurse right now for you, and then step back and take over. So,
And if someone doesn't want to go into a shelter, is it often iHeart that's helping them?
well, there's different situations. Like we have some people that refuse to go to the shelter; they just don't want to do it. And with the courts, it's mandated now that if the shelter's full, that they can stay in a green space or public place from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. And then that's just the way it goes now, right? So and we'll have like we pick somebody up, we gateway's full, we'll call 211 and back transport people to Surrey, to Abbotsford, things like that too. So we've actually got a really good relationship with Gateway and all these other community partners, Lookouts, ACT Team, and we work really well together in Windies.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of how Langley works together.
Andrew, that's your question.
Yeah, I think if there's someone who doesn't want to go into a shelter, but they need help, like could be a health thing.
Yeah, like we're restricted. Like we can use the Mental Health Act if they have to be a danger to themselves or other people. So if like we've had a few guys who refuse to go to the shelter, but they tag data. So we can bring the ambulance to them, that they can refuse. But if it gets to a stage that's so bad, then we can apprehend them under the Mental Health Act, just that gross neglect. But we're limited. Like we can't force anybody in the shelter, so it's just. And some people just can't handle it. Some people don't want to do it.
Maybe it's close to the answer. Thank you for that. I think it's does iHeart or one of these other programs like check in with them?
Yeah, like we have different programs and stuff where we try to get them involved. Like there's some addiction specialists, there's some mental health people like that, and we try to get every person experiencing homeless involved in at least one of these groups, and that's an easy way to get into somewhere like Creekstone. You can't just walk in there. You've got to actually be part of a program somewhere to actually work your way into that. So. And we actually sit down together. We should have a homeless outreach table, but now we call it the lift table. So all these community groups are together, and we can bring a person, say, "Hey, we're concerned about this," and each group could say, "We can do this, we can do that," and we're not doubling up or tripling up on resources for one person, we can spread it out. So.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yes.
Do you have, I maybe I missed it in the presentation, what about ages? Like, you know, teenagers or young people or even seniors? Is there a map?
We take anyone in any of our shelter programs that's over 19, not younger than that, because it would be too much, like it would be a bit unsafe for them, or could be. Encompass in Langley is amazing, and they deal with a lot of youth. I'm happy to pass on their information to you. Yeah, they are an amazing resource. So if we do ever have a youth show up on our doorstep, we don't often, then we work directly with them and often the RCMP as well, because we just can't have youth at the shelter.
Are you available to reach out to directly for like advice? Or
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
We do have one question here. I'm just, how do you prevent the homeless and transit from moving? Many other areas are dealing with encampments.
I think I'm going to defer that question to Phil.
Sure. How do I hear it?
So how do we prevent the homeless and transient from moving in? The first part. Many other areas are dealing with encampments, and the big thing obviously is Vancouver.
Yeah.
That they just did that part. And the third part was last summer there was a gentleman in a wheelchair who was going around Fort Langley, and then he ended up in Wallenbrook, right? You've seen all of them. So, you know, and Abbotsford's also dealing with encampments, right?
So with I can go back to when I was on the homeless outreach team. We had for Langley, we're really limited on resources, and we're getting a lot of homeless people in. So that's where we started the homeless roundtable, basically. And so we actually start communicating with all our community assistance groups, and we work together. And so we're actually, and then we had a different take on it. Instead of a patrol member or a GD guy showing up to a homeless call, we bring the homeless outreach team. So I was aware of what resources were available, and I could guide them that way. And we were a little more compassionate. We listened to their stories and things like that. We came out with, 95% of them are fantastic people. Just like anything, there's that 5% that in anything that's can be a problem, right? So, but we almost came up with like agreements that you stay here overnight, but before the business is open, you keep it clean, you move along, and then remind them, hey, soup kitchens at St. Joseph's Church today, lunches at Gateway, and we provided resources like that. And then the homeless started seeing that we actually did care for them and trying to help them. And so that's why we never had a protest camp or a big camp like that. So I think we approached it differently, and it's been really successful. And we always have an understanding with the homeless community. Like we got like when they opened Creekstone, like I helped house like 49 people there too, right? And they came to me to say, hey, and I kind of gave my list of who I'd like to go there, and like it dropped our police calls 500%. Like just we have people that were like generating 500 negative police contacts a year. We got them housed, and that's going to zero. So it's been very successful that way. So, but yeah, we go to different community events where everybody all the different police departments will be there: Surrey, Abbotsford, Maple Ridge, and it was a sergeant or an officer in charge of their unit, and then they're like, okay, Langley, and I'm like, hey, Constable Phil. So, and they're like, how come you don't have protests? I explained how we did things differently, and it's been very successful. But you do get a transient thing where we house 49 people, and then suddenly you got these new people, and you're like, hey, I don't recognize you. Where you're from? Maple Ridge, Vancouver, Kelowna, Manitoba, and they kind of fill the void. So it's just a continuous process.
Regarding the 95%,
Yes.
or comments, who are just, kind, hurting, like all of us, hurting someone. Any, what's the word? Encouragement or things you would say to us as a community of engaging with 95%?
So it's understanding like everybody has a different story. I'd say 80% of the homeless population are addicted, and then probably another 80% have mental health issue as well. So it's just understanding that everybody's story is different. Like I've talked to guys that had their own businesses and then they got hooked on a serious drug and then lost it outright. And then other people where it's just circumstances. They just ended up there on the street. So we just listen to their stories and stuff, you know. But at the same time, like you're better off supporting an organization like the Gateway and stuff like that. But when you see a panhandler on the street, you're not helping them, giving them $20. That's going to go straight to drugs. It's unfortunate, but that's how it goes, right? You're better off giving your money $20 to Gateway Hope.
So what about giving them food?
So and that's up to you. Like I know people have given homeless foods. Sometimes I've heard good stories, and sometimes they're grateful, and I've others who've talked about they toss it around. So it's up to you, your comfort level. If you want to approach somebody like, and it's like I said, 90% are pretty good. Like I've had guys where I knew them so well, like I knew their birthdays, I knew their backgrounds. I'd show up in the morning and say, hey, wake up, make sure they're alive, they have no heat, make sure they're moving, and then just say, hey, time to clean up, and then I'll go off to Tim Hortons and then bring them coffee, and by that time they're already packed up and then move along, right? So, but then you get some others who are obstinate and they don't know us, and it turns into a big argument, and things like that. But the vast majority are good, just, circumstance. Then you get the ones that you just they got every excuse in the book that they don't want to go to shelter, they don't want to help. So, but we just try to get an agreement with them and an understanding. Anything else?
Well, thank you. Lots of information here, and we will summarize and post it on our Facebook page. We'll do it in our mail out, and we'll put it on our website. There is one other thing that we would like to ask of you, and that would be to fill out a little bit of a feedback. We would really appreciate it if you could take the time to either scan that, or I've got some printed copies that we could pass around. And what we're going to do then is look to see how we can improve our town hall meetings. And this is the third one, and I would like to think that we're going to do this every year about this time, and then look at the issue of the day and try and bring something to the community that is informative and that supports the community. So please take a moment to fill that out, and we will take it, analyze it, and take it to heart. Any comments? And also, too, I want to thank everybody that came out for presentations, and that would be Constable Phil Colter, Yvan Salloomi, um, uh, Captain Krista Barton, and Gregg Davenport, and then also to Christina. It's Shermer. Okay. The people butcher my name too, so I can get away with it. But I just want to say thank you for taking the time in the evening to do this. It's greatly appreciated, and we support you 100%. I know that being out in the field is not the best situation sometimes, and you do need the empathy, you do need the resources, and whatever we can as a community. I'd like to think that we support you. So thank you with that, and again, fill out the form. And oh yes, and our Facebook Live participants. Thank you for There are people watching. Okay, that's it for the evening. Great, and we'll talk to you soon. Yeah, yeah.